We all start out with great intentions, but then life happens. Well, work piles up, responsibilities grow, and all of a sudden, before we know it, the things that we said that we're going to do, we don't do. We start out the new year, we buy the treadmill, we join the gym, we get that membership, and we get up every day and we're at it. But somewhere in the middle, life happens and things kind of fall apart. So today we're going to be talking about what do we do when life happens. Hey, welcome back. This is day number 58 on our 100-day walk to consistency. I'm Dr. Dwain Woode, and I'm glad that you're here. Each day that we show up, each day that we work, we are building a better version of ourselves, a more consistent version of ourselves. We are building a more confident version of ourselves. So I'm glad that you're here. We'll see you on the walk. All right, and welcome back. Welcome back to day number 58. You know, we've been talking about structure. We've been talking about creating consistency and building teams and networks. Well, one of the most important things that we've got to deal with is the fact that in the middle of all that we do, in the middle of all the plans, life happens. And when life happens, it can seem daunting. It can seem as though it throws a wrench into everything that we do and all the planning that we've had. And if we're not careful, it's so easy to get thrown off course. I'll tell you, one of the things that happens to me, and you know, I've mentioned before that what I do is at the beginning of the year, we start a new season, okay? January 1. Well, the year before, I usually am thinking about what I'm going to do for the new year. And my planning begins actually January 1 of the year, okay, of the previous year. But my plan, my details don't really come to form until sometime around Labor Day. And so Labor Day, my family and I, we go away, and I use that as my starting point so that at that point I start to do all the planning. I start putting the procedures together. I start putting my schedule together so that I can do all the things I need to do to continue being successful. And I pride myself on the fact that I get this done. Yeah, buddy. But I'll tell you, when life throws something at you, you know, and I've mentioned before that I sometimes will have difficulty saying no. And so, yeah, it's not uncommon for me to say yes to something and become overcommitted. But what do we do when that all happens? How do we go about being successful in the middle of all the things that happen in life? And it's not just the commitments that we've agreed to. Family happens, right? So someone gets ill, someone has to take time off. You may have to take some time off, something going on within the family that you need to take care of. And all of those things will begin happening. And if we're not careful, then we can become discouraged, and it actually throws a wrench into all the things that we do. And so today we're going to spend some time talking about busyness, right? How do we stay on track when life gets busy is the conversation. And I'm right now, actually it's lunchtime, and I'm walking around. This is a shopping area that's right next to where I work, and you guys have seen me out here before, but thought it was a good time to come out and spend some time in this area. All right, busy. So strategies to stay on track is what we're talking about. How do we stay on track when life gets busy? Well, the first thing is to talk about a myth. And the myth has to do with what we are doing. Myth has to do with consistency. So one of the myths is that consistency means being perfect. Yeah, I'm pausing. All right? Because you know that's not true. One of the myths is consistency means being perfect. And often, because we aren't perfect, then we give up on consistency. And the truth is that consistency doesn't mean being perfect. Consistency just means showing up. Consistency says that I know that I have not been eating the best meal, the perfect meal, the balanced bites that everybody talks about. But that doesn't mean that I throw in the towel. Consistency says, I know that I may miss a couple of days in the walking, but that doesn't mean I stop. Consistency says that I know that I need to get rest. And the last night I stayed up and didn't get all the rest I needed, but that doesn't mean that I stop. You see what's going on? So consistency is not about perfection. It's about showing up each time. And it is about the persistence. It's about saying that I know that this is beneficial for me. This is what I've decided in terms of what my plan is. And I am going to do everything I can do to remain on task, to remain on track. Okay? A 10-minute workout is better than no workout. Come on now. Eating 2 meals at home is better than eating all 3 outside, right? If we're talking about diet and food and so forth. So remember, we're not talking about being 100%. Something is better than always. Because you don't always do something. You don't always get there. We're not always talking about perfection. We're talking about progress. And so consistency says, hey, I'm going to show up. I'm going to do what I can in the space, in the time, in the situation that I'm in, right? So that's the key. I want you to do that. So imperfect, do it imperfectly. And as I said that, there was something that came to mind and it just went out of my mind. Oh, man. Oh, here it is. So when we talk about creator in the creator space, often we have people who are, and I'm going to walk down, I was waiting for those cars. Often we have people that don't do something because they're waiting for the perfect time, right? So they have a book and they're waiting to write all the chapters before they tell anybody about it. They have a podcast, they have a blog, they have a newsletter, they have something that's in them and they're waiting for it to be perfect before they present it to the world. You may be a musician and you have a piece that you've arranged or that you're playing or whatever it is, you have a talent for music and you're playing an instrument and you're waiting until you are perfect on all the notes before you present to the public. And the concept that I heard from one of the other creators says, done is better than perfect. We said it again, done is better than perfect. What does that mean? That means that you having something completed is better than it being 100%. Because if we wait for 100%, that is never going to happen, first of all. And you don't have the benefit of seeing that in the world. And the benefit that other people are getting from having that in the world goes away because you've decided it has to be perfect. Okay? So done is better than perfect. So we're talking about strategies. We're talking about how to stay on track. Okay? So 3 key strategies for staying on track. 3 key strategies for staying on track. Number 1, we want to prioritize when we're busy, right? When you're busy, you want to prioritize what matters most. There are a lot of different mechanisms for doing prioritization, right? So we talked about lists, to-do lists. We talked about the top 3. We talked about the Eisenhower matrix. All of those are methods for being able to prioritize what's important. When you have a lot of stuff to do, when you're busy, you don't have time to do everything. You don't have the capacity to do everything. You don't have the time in your day, and your brain doesn't allow you to process all of that. But you can do things. You can be in a space where you are looking at and doing all the important things. Okay, so you want to prioritize. So how do you do it? So each morning, ask yourself, what is one thing that I have to do today? All right, what's the most important thing that I have to do? That's one way to do it. What do I need to do to keep on track? And simply asking that question helps because there is at least one thing that you have to do. There's one thing that you are working on, one thing that you are one thing that is on the list of priorities. Now, as you go through the day, there are other things that you are going to do, other things that you are going to need to do, and so you add those things to your priority list, right? But what is the one thing that I have to do today? And don't make it 100 things, right? Because you're not going to be doing 100 things. You can't do 100 things, but you are able to take those most important things and do those. Okay, so how do I do it? Each morning, ask myself, okay, what is it? Now, you want to identify also, so this is another way of doing it. You want to identify the non-negotiables. Non-negotiables. So these are the things that you're saying that I can't negotiate for this. I can't put anything else in that time space. I can't put anything else on my list of that will take up this time, take up this space, because if I do, then I know that most important thing, guess what? It doesn't work, right? So what I've done is I've taken something and I've put it in the space of the time that I need to use for something else. So that's another way of looking at that. Identify those non-negotiables, okay? So for example, a 50-minute walk, drinking water, maybe prepping at the beginning of the week, right? Maybe those are some of your non-negotiables. And you get to set those, you get to prioritize those, you get to say what your non-negotiables are. Now, in order to have non-negotiables, you have to be able to look at your goals, right? So it means you have to have done SMART goals. You have to have a concept of how long it takes. You have to have an idea of what the resources are. So remember that SMART acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So all of those principles, all of those mechanisms now come into place, because in order for us to be consistent and prioritize, we've got to understand a little bit about what we're doing, okay? This is a good place to make a point that in order for, well, let me do it this way. So as I've been doing our 100-day walk to consistency, one of the challenges for me has been that I've had to do it at different times. Like right now, you see I'm doing this while I am doing lunch. And you're looking up at me because there are people walking around me and I'm trying not to get them on the video. But, right? So I've had to change around how and when I do things, which is great. But there have been a couple of times when I could have done one of the videos, I could have done one of the episodes at a particular time when I had the available time, but I had not prepared. Whether I left my gimbal at home, or I left my notes at home, or something had happened where I did not prepare. And so because I was unprepared when the opportunity presented itself, I was not able to take advantage of the opportunity. And so one of the things that we've got to learn is we've got to have planning. We have to have some structure to what we do. So even if things are busy, create a structure that works for you. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Recently, just to harp on that point, I said we'll talk about it in a minute, but here it is. So recently I redesigned my studio. And there was this ottoman that was in there that I had a lot of stuff in. I had my wires, my cables, some extra lenses, some Visa arms for monitors. Anyway, there's a bunch of things. And I thought, well, I don't need all this stuff in here. I can let it go and I can do something else, right? I could put it in the garage. So I put it in the garage and it worked fine. And as you know, right, when you put things in the garage, there are times when you need stuff in the house. And so you go, you get it, bring it in the house. Well, what I failed to do was put the stuff back in the garage after I used it. And so after a while, I'm looking at one area in my studio and there's stuff on the floor. And my brain just, I couldn't be creative. I could not do what I need to do in that space. And so I had to go and I got some shelves and I put it in there. So organization was very important. And same thing here, when you organize, when you plan, then you are able to take advantage of some of those benefits, okay? So prioritize what matters most, right? Adjust, don't abandon. So we're talking about the 3 strategies to stay on track, right? Number 1 is prioritize what's important. Number 2 is adjust, don't abandon. If you can't do the full routine, modify it instead of skipping it. If you can't walk for 30 minutes, then walk for 10. If you can't walk for 20 minutes, walk for 5. If you can't eat a healthy plate, then pick one thing on the plate that's going to be healthy. If you can't drink, how many glasses of water they say you should drink, right? You can't drink your 8 glasses of water, then drink 1. Right now, you're not drinking any, right? You see that? But because we want to be perfect, often we abandon rather than adjust, okay? So if you don't have time to fully work out, do 10 sit-ups, do a pull-up, do some curls. If you can't walk. If you can't do your entire body, then pick a section, pick a limb. Right? Today is my abs day. Today is my leg day. Today is my whatever it is, and then you get to decide what you're doing in that space. Okay? So make sure that you are doing that. So you're not abandoning, but you are adjusting. If you don't have time to fully meal prep, make a simple, healthy choice. Right? Too tired to journal, use an audio recording. Right? So all of those are ways that you can do and that you can be successful in your space. Scaling back, scaling down keeps you consistent, keeps the habit alive, and your brain says, okay, we're not doing the complete thing right now, but we are doing something, and it leaves space for you to be able to do that. Otherwise, the time gets gobbled up with something else, okay? All right, so that's number 2. So adjust, don't abandon. Adjust, don't abandon. And then number 3 is plan ahead. Right, so plan ahead for busy days. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one because, yeah, this is like I just explained, right? So things are going to happen. Things are going to happen. You are going to have the best intention that I'm going to go walking. And maybe I can go walking this morning, but you know what? I have some time during lunch, and I'm going to go walking during lunch. And that's great. But lunch comes, and there's an emergency meeting. Or you've got to run and do something else that came up during the morning. And so all of a sudden, lunch, which was the time that you had planned to do all this stuff, lunch is no longer available, and you've got to do something else, right? The busiest days don't happen out of nowhere. We usually see them coming. So in your schedule, say, okay, I know Wednesdays are my busiest days. So on Wednesdays, I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful in what I do. On Thursday morning is usually a busy day. So I'm going to have to do something differently on Thursday morning so that you are able to go this way. So that you are able to build those into your schedule and build them into what you do as you're moving through that space. Okay? So how do we prepare for busy days? One is you can batch your stuff. So this is the whole idea. Let's go back to cooking for a minute. So rather than going shopping 3-4 times a week to pick up the supplies for a particular meal, then on Mondays, on Sundays, on whatever day it is, then you shop it and you batch all of that stuff together so that you're able to be successful. So you're doing one time, and that time you're putting all the energy into the process, as opposed to, because each time you start and stop, you go and you shop, you're wasting time. So you can spend half an hour getting to the store and you pick up the things that you need, and then you spend the time prepping and cooking, as opposed to spending a half an hour every day, every other day, going to the store, to the grocery store. Okay? And I think I'm going to turn around and go back this way because I don't want to go on the highway there. Okay? All right. But you get the idea. All right. So batch your tasks, prepare meals, schedule workouts, plan for your week ahead. You can also use time pockets. Right? Often we think that we've got to have 30 minutes, we got to have 20 minutes, we have to have an hour to do the thing that we said that we needed to do and we want to do. And that's great if you have that time. But suppose all you have is 10 minutes or 15 minutes or even 5 minutes. You can certainly do something in 5 minutes. And if you're walking, for example, or if you are lifting, you're doing yoga, you're doing stretches, then during that time, you go ahead and allocate the 5 minutes, do the stretching, and then you may have to come back later and do more. But at this moment, you don't have 30 minutes, you don't have a half an hour, you don't have 45 minutes, but you can do what you need to do to be successful, okay? So allocate those time pockets, use them wisely, because otherwise, you know what we do with those time pockets? We scroll, right? We're on social media, we're hitting that next button and swiping left, swiping up, swiping down, whatever it is. But you can allocate all those times and you can use them successfully. And then set reminders. Now this one right here is a huge one. So reminders. If you are like me, you have so many things that are going on, so many things that are in your space, so many things that you're thinking about, that frankly sometimes it's hard to know whether that thing was today, tomorrow, did I miss it? And so I have to often set reminders for myself so that those reminders now prompt me. They say, hey, you're supposed to be at this time, this place at that time. And if I don't do that, it becomes difficult for me to be to do all the things I need to do, right? So make sure you are doing that, and reminders are a great way to do that. We have all these devices now. We have our phones, we have our smartwatches. Some people still use calendars, that's fine. And then if you, in the morning, wake up and you look through your calendar, you see, okay, this is what I got to do today. But all of those are great. You may have to put a sticky note on the refrigerator, whatever you got to do. Because if you do that and it's successful, nobody gets to say anything to you, right? And you are doing what you need to do, and you are maintaining consistency even though life gets busy. I'm just walking around. I came out from the shopping center because there's a lot of folks over there, and I have to keep dodging people because I don't want them on the video. All right. So as we're talking about consistency, as we're talking about busyness, one of the most important points in busyness is that often we create the busyness. Okay? So it's great to have the plan, it's great to prioritize, it's great to whatever, but sometimes we create the busyness, and we create the busyness because we are not being intentional, and because we don't have a plan, because we don't have a goal, we don't have a structure. I want you to think about this for a minute. If you don't have a plan for a particular thing, right? So the day comes, and I don't have a plan for today. Then do you know what you do? You do whatever comes up, right? And so the end of the day comes, and I mean, we often will have those days where it's, okay, this is just a day we're just gonna relax, which is fine, because you need those. But say there are things that you have to do, and you say, well, I don't have a plan for today, I'm just gonna see what comes. Often you get to the end of the day, and one of two things happens. Either one of three things, actually. Either you do nothing other than, well, I'm watching TV, I'm on the couch, I'm talking to some friends, or you get busy doing things and you get to the end of the day and there was something that you should have done to prepare for tomorrow, or something that was on your priority list that you didn't do, right? Or you get busy and you're doing some things. You may do something on the priority list, but because your time is divided with other things that come up, you don't get it done all the way. So all of those are reasons why we can create this concept of busyness ourselves. And we think, well, my life is just busy. And it's not that our life is just busy, it's that we have done that, we have allowed that to happen because we don't have structure and we don't have a plan. So make sure that you have structure and make sure you have a plan for what you're going to be doing for your time. Okay? All right. So, we can never, ever have a conversation and leave the conversation without doing a challenge. But before I do the challenge, I've got to say those words. I know you're expecting me to say them, and here it comes. This is one of my favorite conversations. Because this really is where the rubber, as they say, meets the road. Because all the things that we talk about, right, in isolation, like if you had somebody who would prep for you, clean for you, someone who would prioritize your list and tell you what to do, people who would go out and make friends for you, people who would help you be authentic and vulnerable. If you had that, life would be great. But we don't have that. And so every day we're living life in the raw. Every day we get up, it is, okay, how do I today be the consistent person? How do I today be the confident person? How do I today be the vulnerable person? And when life happens, it can throw that out of kilter, right? And so we're talking about on a regular basis, on just on your Monday, right? This is great on weekend, right? So I sit at the house, I don't have to interact with crazy people. I can do what I need to do. I've got healthy foods. I've got my gym, right? And I wake up whenever I want, maybe, right? But on Monday morning, when I got to be at the job at 7:00, and I get there and there are those people that get on my nerves. And at the job, there's that bowl of candy, and the drug reps come in, the pharmaceutical reps, I should say, come in and they're bringing candy, cookies, cake, right? And I walk into the office and the computer's down and their patients sitting in the lobby, right? Because they came to get blood work and they can't get it because the computer's down. So that day is when I get to really tell whether I'm putting this stuff to practice, right? Because the other days, I don't need it. So remember that it is in this space where this works. It is in this space where we get to put it to practice. And the challenges are a way for us to do that. So when you do a challenge, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, let me rehearse. Right? This is a dress rehearsal for me, because on Monday morning, on Tuesday morning, whenever it is, I'm gonna have to really do this stuff. Okay? All right, so you ready for our challenge? So here's the challenge. And of course, whenever we do a challenge, you've got to get your journal out. And you ready? Okay. So what you're gonna do is so what we're doing is we're creating a busy day plan. Creating a busy day plan. So get your journal out and identify what some of your non-negotiables are. So what are your non-negotiables? Non-negotiable, I'm gonna get rest. Non-negotiable at 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm not checking email, I'm not taking any phone calls. Non-negotiable is on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. I've got to do this one thing, and during that time, I'm not scheduling any appointments. So what are your non-negotiables? Write those out, because those are going to help you down the road, because you understand this can't happen because it's a non-negotiable, okay? So write down 3 small essential actions that will help keep you on track no matter what. One can be I'm going to put everything in my journal. I'm going to put everything on my calendar. I am not going to agree to anything without first looking at my schedule. Now that one for me, I like that one. That's the one I got to work on, because people ask me to do things and I'll say, okay, yes. And then I look at my calendar and say, okay, yes, I can do it, but there was something that I'm doing an hour before then, and now I've got to kind of squeeze things in between. Okay? So write down what are some things that you're going to do that are your no matter what, right? No matter how busy you are, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to write things down. Okay? And then I want you to create a plan, create a backup plan. What's your minimum effort vision or version of your routine? So you have a routine that you do. You get up in the morning, you go through your daily routine in the morning, as we talked about. You're going through your day. What is the minimum that you have to do to keep successful and keep consistent? The minimum that I have to do is I have to make sure that at the beginning of the day that I look at my Notion, which is my organizer, and on the Notion I've got my to-do list and I've got my priority list. I have to look at that. Otherwise, I walk in and there's so many things that take my attention, that pull my attention away. Okay? So create what's your minimum effort version of your plan. If you can't work out for 30 minutes, then minimum I'm committing for 5 minutes. If I can drink 8 glasses, I'm committing to drinking 2 glasses. Okay? And then plan your next busy day. So go through your week, figure out, okay, which is my busiest day, and plan for that day. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to put in place? Who do I need to talk to? What time do I need to set aside? Whatever it needs to do, let's go ahead and create a plan for that busy day. And then write down exactly what you're going to do to track your day. Now, I mentioned my organizer, which is Notion. That's what I use. You may have something else that you use, but I find that this allows me to organize and allows me. So it's my external brain. Okay, so if I think about something right now as we're talking, when I get off, I go to Notion, I jot it down, because then I can go back to Notion. It's always there. It's on my phone. It's on my computer, and I don't have to do anything differently. Okay? Yes, I know. This was one of my favorite conversations. It was, because it is so pivotal in the things that we do. But that goes again, right, to this idea of our keystone principles and the keystone ideas, the keystone behaviors that we go through, right? That's why keystone behaviors are so important, because they are pivotal in the course of our day and in the course of our life. Okay? All right. So I think that's and it's a better day. We've had some cold spells. So life gets busy, but your goals don't have to disappear when it happens. When you prioritize, when you are planned, when you have structure, you can adjust instead of quitting. Plan ahead. Keep going, even if it's not perfect. So consistency isn't about perfection, it's about showing up. Today, go ahead and create your plan. Create that emergency plan, create that busy day plan. Figure out what your non-negotiables are and what are things that are a must. What's the minimum that you've got to do if you're going to remain consistent and remain on track? Okay? All right. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Glad that you joined me for another day, another part of my 100-day walk to consistency with cars going by. We'll see you tomorrow for our next day. We'll see you on day number 59. All right. I'll see you on the walk.